Hey folks, this is Rhykker, and Diablo 4 is officially on ice until Season 10. But other ARPGs are heating up in the meantime. Path of Exile 2's next update may be its biggest yet. Last Epoch dropped a teaser for its upcoming Season 3, and out of nowhere, the long-awaited Titan Quest 2 just shadow dropped into early access. We'll talk about all that, but we'll also cover the update on the video game censorship story, how payment processors are bullying Steam and other platforms to remove games that they don't approve of, and how some platforms are fighting back. Plus, Sony is suing Tencent over what is the most blatant case of AAA copyright infringement I've seen in a long time. We'll cover all these stories and more, timestamps in the description, but don't forget to ring that sub notification bell to be alerted to new Saturday episodes. But before I move on, a quick word from this video's sponsor, Incogni. You ever wonder how you get spam calls, texts, and emails? It's because thousands of companies are collecting, aggregating, and trading your personal data. You have the right to demand that a data broker deletes whatever info they may have about you, but tracking down and contacting all those companies takes a ton of time. That's where Incogni comes in. It's a service that reaches out to data brokers on your behalf, requests your data be removed, and deals with any pushback they may give. You'd be surprised at how much of your personal info may be out there. Not just your full name, email, and phone number, but also things like your employment history, your home address, your relatives, maybe even your social security number. Here's my Incogni dashboard. You can see that I've got 6 requests left in progress, and 151 have been completed. I signed up with Incogni a couple of years ago when I started getting a ton of spam texts all the time. I don't know if it started because I signed up to some store's loyalty card, or because one of those LinkedIn data breaches, or from online shopping at the wrong website. All I know is that after using Incogni, I barely get spam messages anymore. Incogni also added a family plan that lets you extend your coverage to up to 4 additional members, as well as an unlimited plan, which introduces Incogni's custom removals feature. With that, you can point to any website where your personal info is visible, and one of Incogni's privacy agents will take care of the rest. So, take back your data, stop the spam, go to incogni.com/Rhykker and use code Rhykker to get an exclusive offer of 60% off. That's incogni.com/RHYKKER and use code Rhykker, or click the link below to take your personal data off the market. Alright, starting out with some Diablo news. We got confirmation from community director Adam Fletcher that there will be no substantial changes coming to Diablo 4 until the Season 10 test server. When asked if there would be any updates, on Twitter he replied, quote, "We are in between seasons, so nothing to share yet. Next update around PTR, test server, for Season 10 launch." This isn't a surprise, as the team long ago said that they were abandoning the mid-season updates in order to better divert their resources to the next season. Now, we did get a surprise this week along with the bug fix patch. A March of the Goblins event kicked off. If you're still playing the season, it's a nice way to farm up another Resplendent Spark. Shouldn't take more than a couple of hours, less if you really try to grind it. There's also a cosmetic portrait to earn, but if you already got it during the last March of the Goblins event, you don't need to do it again. Farming the overworld seems to be the most efficient way to get these goblins. You mount up because you'll see goblins appear on the map more easily on your minimap this way. Nahantu seems to be particularly good as a region to get goblins, but honestly you can go anywhere. PvP zones apparently are also a great source of goblins. In general as well, keep an eye out for greed shrines. Those can spawn a few goblins just by themselves. You can also turn off crossplay so that there are going to be fewer people in your zone with you, so that this way you're more likely to find goblins before someone else has already killed them. The goblin event will run until August 6th. Meanwhile, Diablo Immortal is running a crossover event with Hearthstone. Until August 27th, Immortal players can collect 18 Hearthstone cards, which grant unique gameplay effects that power you up, like giving you a chance to polymorph enemies when you hit them, or giving you a short random burst of cooldown reduction, or applying this sort of spreadable damage marks on enemies. They also got a new gameplay mode in which you get to pick 2 cards, one that is an active buff from the start of your match, the second being a combat orb that drops throughout the match, and then during the match, other random combat orbs will also drop with their own random card effects. They're also bringing back an old event, the Fractured Plane, but with a twist. You can select 3 card modifiers to buff you, one which will be in effect from the start, and then the other 2 that you're going to get during play. Again, I'm bringing this up just because Immortal gets these like really cool events, and I just want to raise awareness of what is possible. if Diablo 4 got these kind of events, I think that would be something that would, get people to log back in, even if they were otherwise done with a season. Now, Diablo Immortal was co-developed with NetEase, the Chinese company, and Diablo 4 is now, just this week, become one of 7 foreign games that have been greenlit to be imported into China this year. You see, in China, there are strict regulations on game publishing. Even domestic games need to be approved by the government, and foreign devs cannot even publish a game in China at all without a Chinese partner. Now, NetEase and Blizzard formed a partnership many years ago to bring World of Warcraft to China. That partnership broke up a couple of years ago because of Bobby Kotick, basically, which led to all of Blizzard's games, apart from Diablo Immortal, being shut down in China. But with Bobby gone, NetEase and Blizzard renegotiated a new partnership to bring Blizzard games back to China, the result of which now has been Diablo 4 becoming accepted as a game to be published in China. Now, of course, I'm sure there were many Chinese people playing Diablo 4 regardless, but they weren't allowed to be. Okay, on to an update on the game censorship story that we covered last week. As a reminder, payment processors like Visa, MasterCard, and PayPal responded to a campaign by an activist group called Collective Shout, and they responded by applying pressure on Steam as well as indie game platform itch.io to stop hosting games that basically depict abusive adult content. And the pressure came in the form of effectively, hey, remove these games or you will no longer be allowed to use our services to process payments. So obviously Steam and itch complied. Now, itch was hit harder than Steam, you can say, because itch is home to a ton of adult content, and they went ahead and delisted more than 20,000 games so that they can individually check them all for compliance before relisting just the ones that are going to be safe, which honestly would probably be most of them, but they just couldn't chance risking it. So anyway, the update to the story, itch has established new nebulous guidelines on adult content. In short, they won't allow adult content that glorifies abuse or depicts minors, and they also won't allow content that depicts real people. The thing is, their rules are vague enough that games like Baldur's Gate 3 may technically qualify as something that would be banned, because it does have a certain amount of adult content in it. Itch also stated that they are looking for alternative payment processors who are more okay with adult content, because even Stripe was now banning content that is, quote, designed for sexual gratification. Meanwhile, Collective Shout, the activist group, they put out a statement clarifying that they were targeting content that involved adult-rated abuse of women, and that they reached out to payment processors because they had first reached out to Steam, and Steam has been ignoring them for months. Now, I will note that despite what they say, if you look up Collective Shout, you look up their values, you look up their members and what their members say and what they believe and stand for, what they say on social media, and you see all the things that Collective Shout has attempted to do in the past, all the actions they've taken, you will see that they want to go after far more than what they just claim they are targeting now. Again, they just picked something now that no one could possibly defend. And remember, folks, the real story here is not about banning adult content of this kind or that kind or whatever. It's about the power that payment processors like Visa or MasterCard have to decide what we are allowed to buy. We have just seen a large-scale demonstration of payment processors applying pressure to Steam. Pressure, Valve, Steam. Anyway, they pressured Steam, the biggest platform for selling PC games, the most lucrative, biggest, this giant in the industry, and Steam instantly and completely caved. No one is advocating for the content that is being banned. What we're saying is that it should not be Visa and MasterCard and PayPal that get to do the banning. The government decides what is illegal, not corporations. If a transaction is not illegal, they should not be the ones who get to block it. This is a case where they control the market, so we can't just take our business elsewhere. There is no reasonable elsewhere for a business to go. We're not in a position to just instantly move to crypto without some kind of transition plan. Average Joe on the street has no idea how to even go about starting to use crypto. If your online shop doesn't support Visa, MasterCard, and PayPal, half the population has no idea how to buy stuff from you. Now, there are alternative payment processors who do accept these kinds of transactions. Many of them, however, are of questionable trustworthiness. And because of that, a lot of banks don't want to work with them, which further limits your ability to, get money into there to then use to buy stuff. And that's part of the problem. Banks are in bed with Visa and MasterCard. How many of you have a Visa that you got from your bank? The banks benefit from the duopoly that Visa and MasterCard have on the market. Plus, there's so many hoops to jump through to set up a payment processing service that is compliant with all regulations. A lot of startups are simply priced out of the business entirely. Now, Brazil and India, they have government-run digital payment processing systems that are viable alternatives to credit cards, and they are widely used by their citizens. Then there's Trustly that kind of works as an alternative, but it's not been widely adopted yet since banks have to opt into it. So depending on your region, maybe you can use Trustly, maybe you cannot. But what do you folks think about all of this? What do you think is the solution here? Sound off in the comments. Because meanwhile, distribution platform GOG has launched a campaign to raise awareness of this situation. They call it the Freedom to Buy campaign. And what they're doing is they're giving away bundles of adult games for free. That's one way to get around payment processors. It's no payment, so can't ban the game. Now moving on to some last Epoch news. Season 3, Beneath Ancient Skies, launches August 21st, and we got an official trailer drop. The season will rework the Lich and Necromancer subclasses, including allowing for a dual-wielding melee Lich setup. It adds a new chapter in the Ancient Era, a new Rift Beast encounter and system, offline cosmetic support, and we'll be able to summon a T-Rex as a minion, so yeah, I think minion builds are going to be on the rise. Now, they'd actually released this trailer shortly after they announced their acquisition by Krafton at the end of last week, which frankly is a brilliant tactic, strategically timing these two things to change the narrative away from the acquisition and onto the new season hype. And speaking of Krafton, they posted their first half 2025 financial results. Revenue for them is up 11.5%. They made $1.1 billion, 63% of which came from mobile. In other news, Sony is taking legal action against Chinese mega publisher Tencent for ripping off Horizon Zero Dawn. The lawsuit basically alleges rampant plagiarism. Tencent's game, Light of Motiram, is set in a post-apocalyptic future overrun with animal-like robots and primitive humans, just like Horizon Zero Dawn. The game's visuals are similar, down to even the fonts used. And as I go through the rest of this story, folks, we'll play a game, okay? I'm going to show a screenshot, and you guess if that screenshot is from Sony's Horizon Zero Dawn or from Tencent's Light of Motiram. And I'll have a little text overlay appear after a couple of seconds. So anyway, the most damning evidence here that Sony can leverage in court is the fact that Tencent allegedly approached them some time ago, proposing a collaboration to work on a project in the Horizon universe. Sony declined it. Light of Motiram went into development at some point in 2023, and it was in 2024 that Tencent approached Sony trying to strike a deal. Now, it's worth noting that while the games look similar, the gameplay of Light of Motiram leans more survival sandbox, and also the minute you hear any of the voice acting, it's very clear which is the knockoff.
This journey will not be easy. You'll need courage, wisdom, and a heart that craves battle.
Sony is trying to stop Tencent from selling their game, and they're also seeking $150,000 in compensation for each act of copyright infringement that exists within the game, whatever that amounts to. I'm sure it'll be peanuts for Tencent, which is why I think they just went ahead with this anyway, because laws are for poor people. In other news, Warner Bros. Hasn't given up on live service games yet. despite its multiple failures in this space, like Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, that lost them $200 million. There's a new job listing at WB Games Montreal, my home city, which is looking for an executive producer with experience that includes, quote, deep understanding of the full game development cycle, including live services. The game they're hiring for isn't specified, but it is described as, quote, a high-quality AAA game based on one of the iconic IPs from the vast Warner Bros. And DC Comics catalog. So, it's going to be DC Rivals, right? It's going to be DC Rivals. Now everyone is rolling their eyes at WB trying yet another live service game, because the definition of insanity is, what again? But here's the thing. They can piss away $500 million trying and trying and trying to get a live service game to work, because they can afford to throw that amount of money down the drain, because even if 20 games fail, they only need one Fortnite. And that's what they're gunning for. Kick enough balls from the 65-yard line, and one of them is bound to eventually get you that field goal, right? Or otherwise said, without the sports analogy, buy enough lottery tickets and you'll eventually win, right? And some quick Path of Exile 2 news. We know the game's next major update is releasing on August 29th. Content creator DM flew out to New Zealand to visit the offices of GGG, try out the update ahead of time, and interview the devs. Do check his channel for multiple videos covering all that. But one really interesting thing is that DM says that this update is probably the largest update the game has had yet. I mean, there haven't been many updates, but nonetheless, is he hinting at maybe a 2-class drop? I doubt it. But even if it isn't, getting 1 class plus 3 new acts, that would be huge. Now, we also got this week the announcement trailer for Darksiders 4, and it's quite the teaser. This is a really cool franchise, and all we know is that the 4th major installment is coming now, and that for the first time, all 4 horsemen will be playable. Then lastly, Titan Quest 2 Shadow dropped this week into Steam Early Access. Preliminary reviews are very positive. I look forward to diving in myself and letting you folks know all about this game. As a reminder, it is not being developed by the same team behind the original Titan Quest, but rather a team that got the rights to the franchise. So I would not say this one is an auto buy, but still those early reviews look promising. And that's going to wrap up this week's video, folks, but do be sure to check out last week's video in which we discuss Last Epoch's acquisition by Krafton and what that could mean for the future of the game. Thanks for watching. Special thanks to my Patreon supporters for making these videos possible. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to join Rhykkers Raiders for more gaming content.